Kate said everyone in the family is always silently judging everyone else's parenting. Is that true?
Oh, of course.
Somebody gonna cue me or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay. Guys, listen, when it's Goldie Hawn, part 1 is not enough. So we are back with Let's Talk Off Camera for part 2 of Goldie Hawn. So let's get talking. Woo! Goldie, we've had a lot of comedic actors on our show and comedians in general. And they all talk about the first time they got a laugh, whether it was on stage, in a school play, a community playhouse, or even in the classroom. It was that first laugh that sort of hit them differently. It felt so good that they started seeking out opportunities for comedy. Did any of that happen to you? Is that what led you to laughing?
I never had an epiphany that made me shift course. There was no plan. The only plan I ever had was, what if I didn't get a commercial, or I didn't get on a TV show dancing, or if I didn't do that. Stardom scared me anyway. I didn't like the idea of stars. Of course, it's a little bit like looking at all the lies and things that they tell you on Instagram and everything else, and TikTok, and the news. But, they always had people divorcing and drunk and this, and they weren't happy, and all those headlines. I didn't want that. And I really didn't. I did not want to be a star. I kind of got nervous around the idea that would happen. So I wasn't led by ambition. I will say that the first big laugh I ever got was in high school when I played the mayor's wife, where I had to faint because, the Elvis Presley type person, right, who was playing, the guy. Literally, I just got up and kept fainting. Well, with my physical acumen or whatever, it was a huge laugh. And that's when that felt good. But I did it because I did it. I can't explain it. I just did it.
It just happened, and then the laughter happened.
Yeah. So that it's kind of like that, And then I was taken on the chorus line, meaning on my first show, I was so excited. And an agent saw me rehearsing at NBC Studios with, 11 other beautiful girls, by the way. And we were doing a special. And this agent came up to me and he asked me if I have an agent. And I said, no. And he said, well, I'd like you to come see me, blah, blah, blah. And I went, well, you're William Morris. Wow, okay. And I forgot about it, totally forgot about it, that I was going to meet him. Because, I'm thinking he's a guy, he's young, whatever. That's not going to happen. I get a call, and then it said, Miss Hawn, we're looking for you. Are you coming to the meeting? And I'm going, oh my God, this is real? So I got in my car, which was funny because, every time I made a right-hand turn, it's 54 Ford, the door would fly open. So I would turn, and the door, I'd have to hold the door shut and turn right and like that. So that was my good. I drove over there, and long story short, they signed me immediately. They didn't know what they were going to do with me. And this man who actually said, I have a feeling about her, took me into an audition. And I met Persky and Danoff, who were big, TV guys at Desilu Studios and with Carl Reiner and all this jazz. And I read for them, and whatever. But I was too young, really, for the role of the girl. And I knew that. And then I went home, and then I got a call. You got the part. And I said, I got the part. I'm too young for that part. He said, no, they wrote a part in for you.
Wow.
So when you wonder if things are supposed to happen, we don't know. Are we on some grid where we're supposed to meet the people and learn something from them? Is this supposed to happen? Was that the way I was supposed to enter into this industry? Because I didn't have any hopefulness around that. It was the last thing I wanted to do.
I think you have a thing that, they call it the X factor or whatever. Mm-hmm. I always call it the crackle, right? I say there are certain people that are crackling.
Yeah.
Where you walk into a room and you may be trying to sneak into a room. You may be trying to want to go unnoticed into a room, but you have the crackle. And
I
so
love that.
people
I
sort of
love-
look immediately and all eyes go to you because you have that effervescent thing, a thing that draws the eye. And I'm assuming the young agent from William Morris saw that in that moment, and then Persky saw it and they saw it, and
Yeah.
I wrote a character for you.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's what happened. And then George Schlatter, one of the loves of my life to this day, he created Laugh-In, and he saw me, and I think he got a call from Billy Wilder, who
Okay.
said, "You should look at this girl."
Wow.
I think that's what it was. Anyway,
Wow.
so he came to the studio and saw me, and then I got a call from the agent, and he said, "He wants to meet you." And I met him in the offices across from Warner Brothers at NBC. And yeah, but I didn't know why I was there. I told him, I don't do those shows, and I'm not a stand-up, so I really don't know. I said, "I'm really a dancer, is what I do." He said, "Well, you just came from a TV show." I said, "I know, but that was just one. I mean, I'm still a dancer at heart, right? That's what Anyway, he
I
gave me
love Goldie talking herself out of every job.
Don't hire me.
It's so un-Hollywood. It is such an un-Hollywood story.
You don't want me.
It's true. I don't want to disappoint, but everybody else did like shows and trunk show. I don't know, whatever they were doing. Not me. So anyway, he gave me 3 shows to do, and then the first show that I did was introducing Dick and Dan for the News of the Future, or Dan,
Yeah.
and I got it messed up. So the cards, the cue cards, was I mixed up a few words, and I said, "Oh my God," and I started laughing, and I said, "Okay, can I do that again?" Because I was embarrassed by it, but I was laughing because I laugh even at myself on the golf course even today. I can play golf with myself and have a ball, because when I hit the ball in the water, it's like the best. I think but like, that's why I was laughing at myself, and he said, "No, no, that was just fine, Goldie," and that was the beginning of my laughing and giggling stuff with Dan.
Wow.
So, these are things I didn't prepare for. I didn't.
Reading off a cue card it is still to this day fills me with dread.
Yeah.
And I did not realize, and I've never been diagnosed dyslexic, but my youngest son is dyslexic.
Yeah.
And when I went and took him for his neurological psych eval, and he
Yeah.
was diagnosed, I suddenly said, "Oh my gosh, I have this."
No, I
Because
have it too. I have it
yeah,
too. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
so those little things, the words you turn around or things like that,
They just
that
flip all over. They
they
move around the page. It's so, and nobody understands it except for other dyslexic people, that the words vanish. They jump up, they move around.
They move
It's so
around.
crazy.
It's so crazy. And then my numbers, I'm getting a little better, but oh my God. So yeah, I was never diagnosed at all. And people have this, and
Yeah.
you move along with it, and that's what happens. But what we learn is Gladwell was a really interesting book. In that one of the books that he did, which was talking about the dyslexics and
Yeah,
how
it's
talented they are.
David and Goliath. I read that book.
Yeah, yeah,
David and
yeah.
Goliath, it was the most helpful book when it came to
I
understanding my son, myself. It was
Mhm.
just like, oh my gosh.
I know.
Because it really, he calls it a superpower, and it really is.
It is. I mean, I could talk for an hour on stage
Yeah,
without a script.
right.
I don't need anything. It's one of these things. Time's up. Time's
Get
up.
the hook.
It's like, and I don't know where it comes from. Yeah. So I've never learned that I was dyslexic. but I experienced a lot of symptomatic things.
Right.
And, so that's the way it is. And I'm not unhappy about it. I think that's a really good thing to be is dyslexic. I
I
think that's
agree
part of
with
my,
you.
I'm left handed. I can write with my right hand. I can write backwards and read everything I wrote in a mirror. Um, I've got
That's
all kinds of
incredible.
talents. I can't know if I can remember lines anymore.
Lines are overrated. So you've done so many incredible roles. Before you logged on, we were going through them. And it was so funny as I was reading your greatest hits. I was like, oh, that's my favorite. And then I was like, no, that's my favorite. No, that's my favorite. Which is your favorite Goldie Hawn role?
Oh my God. I have, once again, it's like your favorite children. I don't have a favorite, but I have ones I loved doing and that I thought were great characters. One of them was Sugarland Express, that Steven's first theatrical film, Steven Spielberg did, and I was in it. So I think this was one of the most wonderful characters I've ever played, Lou Jean Poplin. And it was interesting because it was a very sad movie about a very strange and amusing girl. And so that one isn't as well known because it's much older. But I loved playing Private Benjamin.
Oh,
Oh,
Judy Benjamin was such a great role to play. I mean, and the lines in that and the writing, it was amazing. Nancy Myers is so smart,
so smart.
and it was really, really, really great. And I was pregnant with Katie when they came to me and said, "Would you like to be on board here on this movie that they're going to write?" And I said, "Yes, I would love it." So this was all happening while I was gestating with Katie.
Wow.
And that there are lines in that thing that people never forget. I want to be normal. I want to wear my sandals. I want to be normal again. I mean, does this come in any other color than green? I mean, and then it's like you can go back and look at some of the funny lines that were in there. So and she was such a great character because she took the force, she took it took her life and finally just was able to hit this guy and say, "You're such a schmuck." Okay, so the army made a woman out of her, right?
Yep.
And truly, when she took that veil off and threw it in the air
Oh,
and walked down by herself down that tree lined lane, and the music went on, and I went, "What's going to happen to her now?" And it was I just loved that character.
oh. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch that again
oh,
tonight. I
so
just
good.
decided I'm watching that again tonight.
Albert came in with his favorite
Oh my
all
God.
time.
What's your
Well,
all-time
all-time
favorite?
Here it is.
favorite.
We're gonna play it.
You think just because I'm a movie star I don't have feelings? Well, you're wrong. I do have feelings. I'm an actress. I have all of them.
Best line ever.
It's the best. It was the best line. I swear. I know. It was so great, and her character was so great. I mean, we had lots of things with the movie to try to get it right, but what did happen came out absolutely great. And these lines and these characters were so well drawn, and I loved my character because she was flawed and crazy and self and delusional and sad. I mean, she was such a sad character.
Yes.
So that for me was a great character that I was able to play.
Do you
Uh,
have a favorite co-star? Is there a co-star that you loved working with? And I'm going to take Kurt and move him to the side because I feel like that's prejudicing the jury pool. Is there a second co-star that you just loved working with that you think to yourself, oh, I could make 10 movies with this person?
I tell you, the best match was Chevy.
Yeah. God, we love that movie. We were
and
talking
and
about.
he would make me laugh, and our comedy really jived.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just something about that duo that I thought was really great. And then the other one was Steve Martin.
Oh, wow.
And Steve is so great to work with, and timing, everything. It was just a joy. Um, Mel Gibson was also a lot of fun, but he was so handsome I could hardly look at him. I kind of looked at him and I went, God, you are good looking. And really fun, really sweet. Oh my God, Peter Sellers, please.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
Peter Sellers.
Oh my God, a major gifted comedian. I mean, he was also very crazy, but it was to have worked with him is probably one of the great moments of my life, because he was deeply funny. When he saw himself, for instance, trying to get the bags out of my room, this is in the movie, and he has all kinds of suitcases, but he couldn't get out of the door because there were too many. And when I tell you, we had to break for lunch. Okay, let's just put it that way. You couldn't go on. So, there's, a lot of good things, and then a lot of movies that, weren't so fabulous. But it's never about the successes. It's your experience that you have.
Your experience on the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That I understand, because sometimes your greatest successes can be your worst professional experiences, and vice versa.
And vice versa. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The best time ever. And I mean, one of the movies I did with Steve didn't do as well,
Yeah.
Out of Towners. That was it. I also did a movie called Town and Country. So
Yeah. When you advocated for yourself, I already know the answer to this, so I'm just going to say it. When you advocated for yourself on a film set, whether it was an actor, as a producer, were you dismissed as being difficult? Were you considered difficult at times?
yes, I was. I
It's
was.
it's a very interesting, uniquely female
Label. That's what I
label that is placed upon a woman that just expresses an opinion on a set.
Exactly. It's a little bit, a lot of it when I was producing. So I produced, but I was a hard producer. In other words, I was not satisfied. Until I was satisfied, I couldn't move on. For instance, at Warner Brothers, we did Wildcats. Okay. And I went there. I knew the script wasn't right. They always greenlight things before they're really ready. And I went to New York and I started reading some actors, and the actors weren't bad. They were fine. It was the lines, it was the writing. And I went back and I called up the man who was like running it, and running the studio. And I called him up and I said, we cannot make this movie. We cannot. We've got to take time off, and we have to get somebody in here to rewrite this movie because it's not the actors. It isn't working. And he postponed it. We got, a great writer on it, and redid it, and it was terrific. And I did the same thing with the movie that I did in Toronto. I called Jeffrey Katzenberg, because they had very green producers. They had a brand new director. And I'm telling you, I called him up and I said, okay, Jeffrey, if you want to be 2 months over and so over budget and over time, you can keep these people. But right now, you need to send in someone who is a true producer with history, and he did. And so, these people actually listened to me. The hard part is that when I was producing scripts like Out of Towners that was not ready, they took, there were a lot of things that went on, and a lot of the thing First Wives Club. I fought for every single thing I could, because what happened with First Wives Club, we all turned it down because it was very male bashing.
Right.
And didn't want to do it. And then suddenly the girls said, okay, Goldie, you talk. You do it.
Right. You do
So
it.
I became the voice, right?
Right.
And then one time, when we went there, and it was just, they came to my apartment in New York and met with me, and it was a writer who's going to sweeten it and make it better and all that. So I don't know how many notes I gave him. And I was doing Everyone Says I Love You at that point. So it was like, I have a day off. Okay, now I got to spend it doing this. Okay, fine. We went and did the reading, but I didn't show it to anybody until that day. And we went and did the reading around the table. There was a few laughs, and that was it. This is First Wives Club.
Right.
And I became so irate, and I went over after it was over. And I said, I spent a whole half a day with you, and I gave you a million notes, and not one of them was implemented.
Uh-huh.
This movie, there was one actor who quit right on the spot. And literally, I said, and they said, well, you better talk to blah, blah, blah about this. And da, da, da. I said, oh, I will. So I flew back for a long weekend to work with my producer to go over a bunch of notes for this. And it was quite something. And of course, after it all, they thanked me and whatever. But I mean, it was really hard.
But don't you ever get exhausted from constantly having to be in that position where you have to fight for everything instead of just saying, this would make it funnier, punch this up, take this out. We don't want it to be a male bashing movie. We want it to be a funny film about three friends that really find self-reliance and self-advocacy in this divorce journey.
Yeah.
Instead of having to fight and be the quote unquote difficult one and the mouthpiece for everyone, it's got to be exhausting.
Well, it is, but who's going to do it? I mean,
Right.
this is how I look at it. I'm sure you do too, because you can't create something without disturbance. It's going to happen, and if they're just going to be able to just go with status quo, we're better than that, and the idea is better than that, and we have to be able to look at the story as well. Because if you don't like these people, I don't care what story you're going to tell, nobody's going to like it. So I stick to my guns, and I'm tenacious. And, one of our great film writers actually read that script. He's the greatest script doctor we've ever had. And he's a friend of mine. So I took it over to him, and he said, and Kurt said, Goldie, this could be a career ender. This script is in trouble. Okay. And, I said, yeah, but I've got some ideas on how to fix it. And that's what I did. And so you're right. But what are we going to do when we're muffled? When somebody's going to, put a muzzle on you?
Right.
I don't care. I don't care. I mean, there were lots of things that were wrong. I saw them go wrong. I watched the movie afterwards, and then I was asked to bring somebody on to rewrite the last section of the movie.
Uh-huh.
I mean, wait a minute. I did this. I told everybody in the first place this wasn't going well, and now I became the bad guy because they had to redo it, and the director had to redo it. So he would sit there with his arms crossed and say, "All right, Goldie. Well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?"
Like a petulant.
Oh, it was terrible.
Child.
It was just terrible. Anyway, you live through those things because you know what? Do we have ethics? Do we have that? Are we somebody that just says yes to everything because you don't want to be, kind of thought of as something? No, I'm strong. I know what it is to say no. And I know what it is to make it better because you have a sense. So that's what it is. Now, that didn't happen with everything, but
Right.
we have to stand up and be counted.
Right.
And, there is this, I remember I had an experience where it could have been dealt with differently, but I directed a movie called Hope. And this was for Turner. And I made this movie. I had 29 days to do it. I was in 100-degree weather in Houston and 100-degree, sort of humidity. And one night, all day long, we shot all day long. I shot a fight. We shot this. We had so many edits of the thing. And then the next day, that building was going to be burned. So we're having dinner now. Okay. So now they're bringing my dinner. It's great. I'm in my trailer. And then they knock on the door, and then the cinematographer comes up to me and he says, "Goldie, I got to tell you something. We lost our entire day today." The gal who was changing the film, this was not digital days, the film exposed it. So this whole day was exposed, and we have to burn down the thing. So what I did was I didn't get mad. I said, "Okay, go out of my trailer and let me alone for a while. I'm going to fix this." And I did. And I fixed it because I asked the question, what did we really need inside? How are we going to bring what matters in the scene outside with the Steadicam? How are we going to only get 2 cuts out of this? And the long and the short of it is, it was actually better than what it would have been.
Incredible.
But it's what happens when you don't get inflamed,
Right.
right? And so, look, she couldn't help it. I could blame. What's the point? We have to get it done. And
Right.
that's what you were saying.
And also, I think again, you have that superpower capability of looking things outside of the prism of just how it's written.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the creative part of the puzzle. Every movie is like a puzzle. It's every edit, everything.
Yep.
Is this telling the story? Is this not telling the story? Are we on the joke? One thing in Private Benjamin, we had to go back and do a lot of edits on that. And they did it. The writers did it. They were amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
And do you know there were like 3 laughs in Private Benjamin? And the reason is the editing was, every time the joke was happened, they cut away from the joke. And it was amazing. It was an incredible lesson in the power of editing.
Right.
Because yes, you can edit a drama, and it's more important you're on the subject and you want to know, which way. Comedies are very different. It's music,
Yeah.
So for instance, if a line was delivered to me and it was a funny line, they didn't realize that the reaction was the joke.
Right.
You see what I
That's
mean?
right.
So
Yeah.
it's a way of, you got to get that music. You got to
Yeah,
know
that's
where
the-
to know where to
That's
do
the
the
sweet
edit.
spot, having the edit on the reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so anyway, that was an interesting time, looking how to manage your emotions when you have to.
Yeah. So I pitched this idea to Kate.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not going to go through the middleman. So I pitched this idea to Kate.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not going to go through the middleman. This is the idea. It's a reality show. It's Thanksgiving dinner at your place. And every year, one family member gets eliminated. Tell me this is not a great television show.
That's very funny. What I would love, actually, before we all get, too old, would be so great to do a movie together.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Wouldn't it? It would be so fun and so crazy, and oh my God,
Why don't you do that?
Well, we got to.
Are you
It's
going
all
to
about
write
a
that?
writer.
Yeah, you're going to get a writer.
No, I have to get permission first from my family.
You're in charge. You just tell them when, tell them when to show up.
Sure.
Tell them it's a party. Tell them you're having a party for Kurt. Okay, here's how it goes. You tell them you're having a party for Kurt. What they don't realize is it's a party scene for the opening of the movie. So they just all arrive, and then after the first scene is shot, surprise, surprise, you pitch the idea for the movie. And you've already got the opening scene in the can. They can't argue with it. The establishing scene has happened.
Oh my God, it's really true though. It's a miss. It would be a miss. We might do something with Oliver that is a cartoon. So in other words, we would all be the voices of that would be a lot of fun.
That's a
That'd be
safe
a lot of fun.
that's a safe entryway.
That's
into
safe.
that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
But
safe.
Kate said everyone in the family is always silently judging everyone else's parenting. Is that true?
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, that's like, we have more commentary about how we do things. And of course, parents, you can't say anything. In other words, you can't. I mean, no matter what you say will be wrong, will be taken wrong.
So you have to keep it closed.
very
You have to shut
quiet.
it. Right.
Oh yeah, I just shut it. Mm-hmm.
But then Kate can get involved in Oliver's parenting.
Oh, please. I mean, she can get involved in anybody's parenting. That one. No, Katie actually, I tell you the truth. I'm telling you, they're great parents, but they
Yeah.
came from great parents.
Yes.
And it just shows you how powerful and important we are. And, no matter what, we are developing the next generation. And all I could think of is what I did. I mean, I let kids make mistakes. I got mad when they were not nice. I got mad when they weren't kind. I got mad when they didn't look at someone in the face when they talked to them. I didn't get mad when, Oliver got taken to the police department because he was paintballing something when he was 9 years old. That didn't make me mad. Except you got to
And
go
Kurt,
take
and
care
Kurt
of
had
it.
to pick him up, right? Is that the
Yeah.
story?
Yeah, Kurt picked him up, and the boys, they're out. They were kids, In the meantime, but see those kind of things, I figure are age appropriate, and then you just say, look, you realize that you never do that again. You get that right. But the thing that made me mad was rudeness, and I mean just arrogance, and I mean not thinking about the other person, and that's really, I think, the mark of the human. How we actually do that. How do we manage our children so they understand the right things from the wrong, not the spilt milk.
Well,
But
that's why your kids are so kind. They're all so kind, all of them. I mean, there's one I haven't met. Who hasn't been on our show?
Boston.
Boston hasn't been on our show, but I knew Boston when he was a little boy. We
Yeah.
used to live in the same
That's
apartment
right.
building in New York. Yes.
That's right. Oh
But
my
so, like,
God.
all of your kids are nice.
They are,
people.
honey. They really
They're just
are. I
all
mean,
good
if you
people.
look at what you count, your blessings or that kind of thing. I mean, I have really sweet children. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I say, and they all have grit. They all care. They're great parents. Great parents. I don't know. I mean, I guess you live by example, and that's sort of what we have to remember, that sometimes we don't think much of ourselves, but I think we parents have to think a lot of ourselves, so our children pick that up.
Before I let you go, I just want to do some rapid fire questions with you.
Okay, baby.
Childhood celebrity crush.
Audrey Hepburn.
Ah, that's a good one.
Yours was a woman too.
Mine was Farrah Fawcett. I have a type, Goldie. Surprise, surprise. Childhood memory that still makes you smile.
Oh God, I have to go to my father again because he was so funny. And Daddy would, every time he'd see me, he'd do a little dance and like a soft shoe, and made me smile.
Oh. First kiss.
I was in a car with this guy, and I,
So far, I like the way it's
used,
starting out.
I used to practice kissing in the mirror because I wanted to know what it looked like and what it felt like. And anyways, I was with this guy. I mean, he was like somebody, I guess, from school, and he had a car. And I was a little bit younger than him, but he pulled over on Sligo Creek Road, and then he kissed me. And all I could think of was, oh, so this is what it feels like. Oh, like that. And I kind of didn't like it. You know what I mean? So, but I was a very late bloomer. I wasn't,
That's because you
I
were a
was a-
dancer.
yeah, because I was a dancer. I was a late bloomer. Yeah, for sure.
First concert.
Wow, that's a good one. Well, I'll tell you what it was. It was Ike and Tina Turner.
Oh, that's good.
Gosh.
I was 16 years old at the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C., and oh my God, it was amazing.
God, I wish I was there.
Imagine.
First time somebody told you couldn't do something that really stands out in your mind.
Do basically what I'm doing with children. They said you'll never do this. You're not going to bring meditation in the classroom. You're not going to teach little kids how their brains work. They had no faith, and I said, watch me. That's my answer.
First expensive thing you bought when you started making money.
My mother, I bought her wall-to-wall shag carpeting.
So chic.
What color? Do you remember the color?
Yeah, it was mushroom colored, and my father used to call me and say, I swear to God, there are mushrooms growing in this carpet. I mean, he hated that carpet. But I know my mom wanted wall-to-wall carpeting one day, and I got it for her.
Favorite way to spend a weekend?
With my grandchildren. Anywhere. With my grandchildren, anywhere.
What do you sing in the shower?
I ohm in the shower.
Oh, that makes sense.
Whoa. and it goes all through my body. I love it. And then sometimes I do vocalizing, like, and I do things like that. And I do sing sometimes, but I do a lot of vocalizing.
Vocalizing. Write that down. Vocalizing in the shower. We need to start vocalizing, Jan. We don't do that enough.
We don't owe him enough.
If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say?
Don't do anything differently. Just follow your heart.
So good.
Follow your heart. And that's the way you go, honey.
What's the last thing you binge watched?
Binge watched. Oh God. Yeah. Because I drop off sometimes. I get bored.
Yeah.
I remember one thing that I liked was Succession. I love that. So I saw it years ago.
Me too. I watched it. I watched every season over and over. And then after it ended, I went back and I started rewatching. And spoiler alert, in the first 2 episodes, they tell you exactly how the thing is going to end. So crazy.
What?
If you go back and watch the
God.
first 2 episodes of season 1, it tells you everything as it's so crazy how
That is so crazy. I don't
It's
even
crazy.
understand the thinking around that.
yeah, it's crazy.
But it's funny. I don't watch a lot of TV. Like I'm right now. I'm watching, Benjamin Franklin, and Michael's a friend of mine, and I love him so much, and so I'm watching him work, and I'm enjoying it. I'm not driven to it, and it's just like, and then if we go out to eat, we get home around 8:45, and then I start going up the stairs, and Kurt says, "You're going to bed now?" I said, "No, I'm just preparing for my bedtime."
I'm going to get you and Kurt shirts. His that says you're going to bed now, and yours that says right now. But yours is going to be on the back so he can watch you walk up the stairs. And
Right
Yes,
now.
exactly.
Goldie, thank you so much for doing our podcast. We love you.
I
we
love
are
you too.
such fans, and you just live up to all the hype. We adore you.
Sweetheart.
Thanks
I
so
loved
much.
it too.
Have a great day. And for any of you out there who want more information on Mind Up, go to mindup.org.
Oh, honey, thank you so much. All right, sweetheart. Okay,
All right.
bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Woohoo! Well, Goldie Hawn
Not disappoint.
does not disappoint.
What's your favorite Goldie Hawn movie?
I think Private Benjamin, Overboard, and then Foul Play. Those were my top 3.
So good.
And then Death Becomes Her. Death
Yes.
Becomes Her and Overboard are the 2 movies I have easily seen 10,000 times. Every time it's on, I stop what I'm doing and I watch. Like, I could be in the middle of something.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, Death Becomes Her. I watch it.
Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn.
I wrote it down after she said it, but then she
It
resaid
was like
it.
watching Kate Hudson.
Yeah, that is.
It was crazy, right? Wasn't it eerie? You couldn't see her, Jan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Jan.
Yes.
They are the same person.
it
I
is
know.
wild.
It's
It's
wild.
wild.
Kate's finally coming out with that album.
I know. I'm so excited about it.
I think it's going to be great.
Very excited about it.
I just think it's so funny how you have such strict rules from your kids about what you can and cannot say, and now her kids have a podcast and they're just blasting everything.
I know. It's really nuts. So, for example, my daughter has released this new single, Rolls.
Oh, it's so good,
get it
Kelly.
now on Spotify under Lola Consuelos, Rolls, ROLES. Download it now. But she won't let me repost anything. And I'm watching her repost people all over the place. And I go, wait, why can't I post on social media? You're letting everybody else post. She's like, Mom, please, I don't need your help to do this. I'm just going to do this myself.
Just do it and you'll say, oops, sorry. I have some Ask Kellys for you.
Okay, let's do it.
I have some Ask Kellys for you.
Okay.
So the first one is from Daphne Jarrett. Is it rude to check up on someone if you send them something really unusual and never heard back from them? It's like if you sent a gift.
It's interesting. I am faced with this constantly where I'll send a gift and I never hear back. And I don't usually check up to find out if it was received. On the flip side, I've been sent gifts with no card and no discerning ability to figure out where it's from, who it's from, what it is. Like sometimes I am just sent gifts and I have no idea. And then 3 months later, somebody will say, "Did you like the slippers I sent you?" And I will say, "Oh my gosh, that's from you?" So I think it's fine to say, just out of curiosity, did you enjoy the gift I sent? Because there could be, if you sent it and you didn't specifically put your card in by yourself, if you didn't put the card into the box, there is a chance, even if you used a reputable company, that the card did not go in and said person has no idea that you sent it.
That just happened to me with we got smoothies, like a box of smoothies for Glenn when he was sick, and we had no idea where they came from. And I kept thinking it was like one of the companies we use for the podcast. So I was like, maybe it's like a podcast thing, and maybe this is just something we're supposed to try. But it just made no sense because it was like perfect for what he was going through.
Right.
So anytime someone would say anything about a gift, I said, "Oh, did you send this?" Like I would literally ask people.
That's funny.
And just recently, Devin and Roz said something about, "Well, did you guys ever get the smoothies?" I'm like, thank God. I've been trying to track this down.
Right.
Like it's like one of those things where I think it's actually helping people if you bring it up because most people will say thank you. It's probably that they just don't know it's from you.
Don't know it's from you, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
My birthday this past year, I'd like to call it my final birthday because the flower arrangements were so extraordinary that I walked into the house and I said to Mark, "Is this my final birthday?" Because it looked like a funeral had taken place. It was that many flowers.
Who's dead?
Who's dead? Exactly. It was who's dead. And for the most part, the cards were with the flowers. But there were a handful of arrangements that I have no idea where they came from, who they're from, or some would just say, I'm just going to give a random name, "Love, Tim." And I'm like,
Tim.
"Who's Tim?" You know what I mean? Like, Tim. And I've gone so far as to call the flower shop if there's a card that is from a specific florist and say, "Hi, my name is Kelly. I received flowers for my birthday. They were delivered here. Can you tell me who they're from?" And sometimes you can track it back that way.
Right.
And sometimes they have no record of the purchase. So it's hard sometimes because I'm pretty diligent about writing thank you notes.
Oh my God.
But sometimes you realize, oh my God, I have this thing here and I have no idea who to thank for it.
Tell them before we move on what Liza said
Liza Persky was like, I think it was my birthday. And I was like, "Please don't bring a birthday gift. I'm begging you. I don't want to write a thank you note. That's my gift from everyone this year is to not give me a gift so I don't have to write thank you notes because A, I was out of stationery, and B, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get it from the printer." And I was like, by the time the note cards are back from the printer, it's going to be 2 months and I'm going to forget. And I know myself. So she brought me a present and she wrote herself a thank you note.
and put it in with it.
And she put it in with it.
Brilliant.
With the
most
postage.
Brilliant thing I've ever heard.
She's like, "Here, you can just drop this in the mailbox."
Awesome. That's awesome.
All right, so for Maria, Kelly, how should I react when a friend ghosts me instead of replying to me?
You should look within. Look within. The message is there. If your friend ghosts you, there's a reason.
What if the friend didn't see the message?
Oh, I mean, then it's possible, it's plausible. But if you have a friend that you communicate with on the regular, and then suddenly your friend stops responding to you, I would reread your last 8 to 10 texts.
Yeah.
I will say though, how often are you in the middle of something and then 5 texts come in?
Oh yeah,
And
all
by
the
the
time.
time you get to the 5th text, you've forgotten that you.
I was on an airplane flying home without Wi-Fi on Mother's Day.
Oh, God.
And I still have about 30 texts I have not responded to because I was on an airplane without Wi-Fi. By the time I landed at midnight 30, And all the text messages popped up from 6 hours ago. I was like, well, it's too late to respond now.
Yep.
I'll respond after work tomorrow. Well, after work tomorrow came and went. And
Yeah.
it's a shit show that
50
has
more texts.
50
Sometimes.
more texts. And then you start replying to things that actually need to be responded
Yeah.
to. Like, Happy Mother's Day doesn't need to be responded to right away.
No.
All right, next question. Colleen Homer Maffey says, how can I motivate my 20-year-old to get his license and drive? I could have told you it was a boy because it's like definitely
Right.
a boy thing.
Okay. Well, it's very difficult. Where does this person live? Does
it
it
doesn't
say?
say, but I think that's like a city kid thing. It feels
I would get, well, now with Uber, they don't need licenses anywhere
Yeah.
they go. I would motivate him by saying, you're going to be graduating from college. You're going to have a job that requires you to have a license. You're going to need the license, not just for driving.
Right.
You're going to need a license to drive to your job, I'm assuming, or drive around. Like, that's how Michael got his license. Michael was the same age. He was 20. And he had no desire to get a license, but he got this internship with Blumhouse Film while he was in college, and he needed a driver's license. And that's why he got his driver's license.
Yeah. Luke was really late to driving. I think just being a city kid
Yeah.
in Ubers, the whole thing. And he
Right.
I think it was a responsibility he really didn't want.
Yeah.
But even when he got his license, I call him the passenger princess because he literally will always take the ride if there's an option. He's not the kid who drives, but he did get a job one summer where he had to drive. And I think it changed everything. It was just that consistent driving every day. He
Yeah.
kind of just got into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had that whole issue with him as well.
My daughter has only driven on the left side of the road. That's the only place she's ever driven. So the idea of her driving in America scares the shit out of
Didn't
me.
you tell me once that when Michael started driving that he made a left?
Michael learned how to drive. All of our kids learned how to drive on the left side of the road.
Right.
All of them learned how to drive on the left side of the road. Everybody else, when they got back to America, transitioned to driving on the right side of the road, except for Michael. If he made a left, he went left and he stayed in the left lane. Anytime he went left, it became left. And I was like, no. You hang a left and you get right back to the right side of the road. It was like a concept that he could not process.
Is Joaquin a good driver?
He's a great driver.
He's driven you around?
Yeah, he's a great driver. He drives everywhere. He's the real driver.
I
but
feel
the
like-
other, Lola lives in London. Michael lives in Brooklyn. They never drive.
Right.
Joaquin drives everywhere because he has to drive.
Well, there was that whole thing that Cyril told me this because he directs commercials, that they did some big thing trying to figure out how they could appeal to the younger generation because they aren't buying cars. And I guess the overall feedback is that they don't want to put down their social media. So how do you incorporate social media into cars and into CarPlay in order to get that generation to buy cars?
Turn off social media. Your brain is rotting. Your personality is rotting. Your ability to listen and comprehend and understand people and engage
I
in basic
agree.
human behavior is rotting.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yes.
Kathy, when is it time to cut off your kids financially? I was a single mother and they are now in their 30s.
Oh my God. Like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if they're in their 30s, 10 years ago, Kathy, cut them off. Rip off the Band-Aid.
Well, okay, so I have a question. So we just figured out that we're probably never going to be empty nesters because my kids are 4 years apart. So when one goes to college, the other one's coming home.
No.
Wait,
He's going to graduate. He's going to get a job.
but I know, but that's going to take a minute, right? Don't they come home first at this point? I didn't come home.
It
I
depends,
went straight
yeah.
to an apartment, but
So Lola came home for about 6 months before she went back to London, but she really only came home because she had to wait for her visa. So it was kind of interesting having her here. She was like an honored guest. She really acted like the house was a resort, not so much her house. Michael graduated in May of 2020. So he was stuck at home with us for a year and a half, but he couldn't wait to get out.
okay, so once they get a job and they have enough money for their said rent and extra money for
living expenses. Yeah.
You still supplement them a little bit, or how's that going to work? Like I supplement them a little bit for a little bit of time, or I'm like, you're cut off.
So Michael,
I'd like to have my head around this.
so once Michael got a job, and don't forget, Michael was really lucky because he did a bunch of voiceovers when he was a kid.
That's right.
And that money went into a trust for him. And so that gave him a little bit of a cushion.
That's right. I
He had
forgot
a
about
little
that.
bit of a cushion. But he learned really fast the value of money when we cut him off.
Yeah.
And we cut him off, we gave him that year grace period because he was living at home. He was starting to work. He was taking all of those jobs on various television pilots.
He was.
He was hustling.
He
We
was a
saw the
hustler.
hustle.
Yeah, he definitely hustled.
But we knew that he was going to need a grace period because every opportunity he had lined up disappeared with COVID. He had
Right.
really worked hard to establish himself and get into certain rooms he wanted to be in. And then COVID happened and all of that went away. So he sort of started from scratch. So we gave him a bigger grace period. Lola, I will say that she's chosen a career in music and also doesn't want to promote it at all and doesn't want to release it ever.
Well, Cal, she's been dropping a lot of stuff on Instagram.
Yeah,
she sounds great.
Well, you know
and
what?
I actually think what she's doing is really smart.
Smart.
I actually am listening and I'm seeing what she's doing, and she's gaining visibility.
Yes,
and I think
she
it's
is.
unbelievable.
Yes.
My parents gave me so I was paying my own rent. I was, buying my own stuff, but I would go to my parents' house on the way I would work at Maury Povich. I would leave my house, go to their house, eat breakfast in their kitchen because their kitchen was nicer than mine. And then I would get on the subway and go to work. But they did give me a credit card, and he said, look, if you ever, for a nice dinner or whatever it is, you use this. And so anytime I'd have dinner with my friends, I would buy the dinner for everybody and collect everybody's money.
Oh.
And it's like, and I was like,
Smart.
he's never commented on it, so I'll just do it from time to time. And I would do that, and then of course.
And then you would have some cash in your pocket.
I'd have cash in my pocket,
Smart.
but he definitely brought it up to me later.
Yeah.
He knew.
Yeah.
He's listening now, Jan.
He's listening. So
It's very-
Dad,
it's
yes.
that's very industrious of you. I like that.
Yes.
I mean, I remember when the reality of having the safety of us taken away from him, we sat him down and I think he was 23 and we were like, look, you've had the year, you're working, you have this apartment that you can afford. There is no reason that we should be supplementing your income at this point.
Right.
And once that safety net was taken away, we started noticing things.
Yeah, the hustle gets even real.
The hustle
Yeah.
gets real. And then we started noticing, oddly, we would come home from work and Michael would be in the basement doing all of his laundry. And then I would see shopping bags and I would say, oh, did you go shopping? And he would say, well, kind of. I went shopping in the pantry. So he would just shop for groceries in our pantry. That's where his,
Smart.
we were at Gelson's.
Brilliant.
We were the Gelsons of the Upper East Side.
Brilliant.
And that's it. Don't forget to tell all your friends about us. You can check us out on Instagram at Let's Talk Off Camera. Bye, everyone. Can't wait to talk off camera next week. Woo! Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions with help from Goat Rodeo. Our theme song is Follow Me from APM Music. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Devin Schneider, Michael Halpern, Jacob Small, Roz Therian, Seth Gronquist, and Julia Desch. From Goat Rodeo, our team is Kara Schillen, Megan Nadolski, Max Johnston, Isabel Kirby McGowan, and Rebecca Seidel. Additional sound design by Terrence Bernardo. This show is powered by Stitcher.